Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Wrestling Conversation. Oh, boy, do we have a lot to talk about on this episode. Welcome to Pro Wrestling Inside and Out Live. And like I said, we have a lot to talk about. I'm pretty sure you have some comments or you have some questions you would like to ask us. And if you do, please send them over. But right now, let me bring in our hosts, Jack Lord and Rodney West. Welcome to Pro Wrestling Inside and Out Live.
Good afternoon. Good evening.
Well, the big news, I think if you've been following professional wrestling, the big news is so many things going on in professional wrestling. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Jack Lord, and he's going to give his comment on what he thinks is going on today in professional wrestling.
Well, I can get to it pretty quick. With all the sexual allegation stuff going on out there, we last week we also had a lot of the comments going on. Well, for the last couple of weeks, about the racist comments being made. There's so much about our business now that needs to be cleaned up, and the sexual allegation things, man, I mean, all that hit, I think it was Friday. It's been unreal at how many people that's affected. I think there's 5 or 6 folks in WWE that's been suspended or fired. And it's widespread. AEW just released a statement from suspending, what's his name? Sammy Guerrero.
Yeah.
And Sammy's pretty good. He made a very dumb joke on a podcast about 4 years ago, and it's now getting brought up. I've been telling guys forever, watch what you say, watch what you post. Your personal feelings, start a separate account. Don't put that out there as representative of wrestling. But just watch what you say, guys. I mean, just kayfabe a little bit, watch what you're doing. Now, on the other hand, you guys putting your hands on women, making lewd suggestions or trying to force them into doing something is wrong, I'm going to whoop your butt. And everybody I know is going to do it too. Y'all stop this. It ain't never been something that's a part of our business, and it never will be. And if you want to go somewhere, keep your hands off your sisters, because that's what they are. We're brothers, sisters, we're family in this business. Start acting like it. Okay, I'm done.
Well, it has been a week for professional wrestling. Not only has it been a week for that, but a lot of things happen. I think Orange County, which is, I believe, is Orlando, Florida, right? Orange County.
Yeah.
Florida. I think the mayor has had a mandatory where you have to have a mask on. Now, how is this going to affect the WWE program? Will the wrestlers have to have masks as they're performing?
I don't think it affects the wrestlers. I think that is primarily for the fans in attendance. Okay. Because the wrestlers are actually being checked. So, they have a certain amount of clearance there. From my understanding, that's just for the fans. And as far as that goes, that's not going to hurt anything. You can still hear people yelling and screaming and, all through a mask if you're doing it right.
Yeah, and all they have to do is read those boo and cheer signs they've got going on or something.
I think a tremendous merchandising opportunity for everybody involved.
Oh, it's huge out there. I've been seeing masks everywhere. Man, I was actually thinking about doing that, and I went to the store, and all the elastic was already sold out. So I knew people had jumped faster than I did.
It would be my luck. I would get in there, and I'd have all kinds of masks printed up, and then they would find something that now you don't have to wear a mask, and I'd lose a bunch of money. So I decided I didn't want to get into that business. Let's say hello to some people while we can. Turbo Ted is with us. How you doing, Theodore?
Hey, Ted.
Joe Baloo. Hello, everyone, and happy belated Father's Day. Same to you. Let's see.
Thanks,
Clifton Brent Phillips said, watch out for the flying chairs.
They ain't far behind, buddy. If it wasn't for coffee and cigars calming me down, they don't telling what'd go on.
Now, listen, I've got a list of stuff here that could start at any time, some rants and some problems. And for some reason, my camera's going in and out of color, but I've got some things here wrote down that could cause a lot of grief and problems as the show progresses. So, if you're into that, like you like to have a lot of slam bam and chair shots, actually we may have to actually, all three of us might have to turn the lights out in our house. So, and then turn them back on, because back in the day, lights out match was non-sanctioned by the National Wrestling Alliance most of the time. You had to turn the lights out for 10 seconds and then turn them back on, and then whatever happens. And it could happen on this show. So you may want to, because there's a bunch of stuff that people got in touch with me this week. I'll tell you, evidently this was the week for people to be upset about things. There was somebody that, before I say hello to them, there was somebody that got upset. Hello, Bubba Griffin. Hello, Pensacola in the house. Thank you so much for being a part of it. I got a message that got mad because I said something about Impact Wrestling. That I said that Impact Wrestling was not any good. And I'm not, and please don't think I'm saying anything about the wrestlers. The wrestlers are good. Am I correct about this, Jack? You watched the show.
Yeah. Oh, I caught heat. I made a post this week on my Facebook for the very same thing. The wrestlers are great. I know a couple of them up there, man. And I mean, I'd have them on my shows in a heartbeat. I think they're awesome. But that writing and the direction of the company is in the toilet. And if you want to fight about that, I'll fight.
Yeah, and it's not, it doesn't have nothing to do with the talent. It has nothing to do with talent. I'm not a big, I make it no secret, I'm not a big WWE fan. And it's not because of the wrestlers. I think the wrestlers are spectacular. I think there's never been a better group of wrestlers ever. I think the writing's bad. And let's talk about the writing for just a second. Raw this week. Did you notice they put the champion, I forget the champion's name. What's the
Drew McIntyre.
Drew McIntyre and R-Truth against MVP and Bobby Lashley. Did you see the Continental Championship Wrestling angle that they did in that? Where the two champions, it didn't matter who they beat, they could lose the title.
Yeah.
I thought that was very Continental Championship Wrestling this week. And it really surprised me when I saw that on television. But I don't know that it's smart to put your heavyweight champion in a comedy match, basically. I'm not for sure that's smart booking.
That should be your most serious match of the night. But they've been doing a lot of comedy lately, and I kind of feel sorry for those guys involved because they're really good. I hate what they're having to deal with.
I mean, Bobby Lashley,
watch NXT.
Bobby Lashley, great wrestler, big guy, very talented man. But man, they have beat him for 3 years and put him in comedy matches, and I just it's pretty sad. Now, I'm not saying the wrestlers are great. I think their performances are great. They just need some good writing. And I know Bruce Pritchard took over for, I think this would be the second week, I think, coming up. And so we'll see what happens with Bruce taking over.
Well, let's be honest with WWE. I don't care how good or how bad the writers are. It all comes through Vince.
Yeah.
And, he's watching, he's putting on what he wants to see. And nothing's going to change until his perspective changes.
Well, here's something else that I wrote down that they did on SmackDown. And I always thought that all this programming was being approved by the networks. But I don't know that that's true. Because they threw somehow, what's the big redheaded guy, the big guy, Sheamus. And what's the guy? Jeff Hardy. They had a wrestling match on there. I didn't watch it, but they said at the end of the match on SmackDown, he ends up, I guess Sheamus wants him to do some type of test or urine test at the beginning of the deal. And at the end, he throws the urine in Sheamus's face, I guess, and beats him. Maybe don't beat him.
Well, it wasn't a match. It was just a setup for a match.
Was it set up for a match?
He drowned him pretty good.
Well, they said that the people at Fox was upset big time over this, and they wouldn't even play it on the West Coast. So it shows that the programming is exactly what Vince wants. It's not what USA Network or Fox want, or they would have knew that was going to happen, and they would have put an ixnay to that before it happened. I always thought it was something to do with that, but evidently not. But I'm thinking, why would you do something like that? Don't he remember the reason he got the USA Network? What was the story, Rodney? That the reason
it was Bobby Jaggers brought pig, let's just say manure on the program, a big bucket of it. I believe it was Scott Casey come out there and dumped it on Jaggers' head. And next thing we knew, Vince McMahon was on there next week. That was the end of that. And I think they had already warned them. I think they already had several warnings, and that was the end of that. But it comes right down to it. And there was a story I saw where one of the former WWE stars, I don't read the story because I don't want to click on it and then I have my whole thing full of it. But apparently they're saying that Vince has lost his way. He's not hungry anymore. He just kind of calling it in. Could be after you get to a certain age, you've accomplished all you want to accomplish. He's put everybody out of business. He has basically the only show in town now. So, maybe he has accomplished all. The only thing he can look forward to is going down. Maybe he's at his end. Who knows?
I don't know, but there's a couple of other things. I'll get into them later on because for this today, I was while I was working, I jot stuff down, and I jotted down a lot of things that I thought was very interesting in the world of professional wrestling. The one thing I wanted to ask, and Jack, I'm going to ask you this question because maybe you know more than I do about this. But do you know about the Dark Order? They're called the Dark Order.
Yeah, I mean, I know the gimmick. Like I say, I fast forward through AEW a lot, but I do know who you're talking about.
All right, so they got the Dark Order at AEW. Now, who is watching the AEW show and thinking to themselves, "Boy, I really like this Dark Order thing," and then come up instead of them having the Dark Order, they have a bunch of ninjas. In the place of ain't that just the same as the Dark Order? Just you've made them ninjas.
I'm gonna be honest. They have so many similar groups that I lose who we're talking about at any one time. So I really don't know.
Well, they had ninjas that drove up on bicycles, on motorcycles.
Well,
I didn't know ninjas rode motorcycles, but they
it's the modern age, Brent.
Yeah, but they drove
now. Could you hear the engines? Could you hear the engines on the motorcycles?
Well, I don't know.
If you could hear the engine, it wasn't.
Engines are sneaky.
Yeah, it wasn't ninja motorcycles. So
no,
they couldn't sneak up on you.
I just thought that just seems very similar in their deal. Dark Order, a couple of ninjas, and some big dude that evidently going to go get Big Show.
Now, we have to remember, the shows are not designed to entertain the people. Those shows and anybody in the ring are not designed for the fans or the people watching the show. This is to entertain one another. This is to entertain the back. This is to go back and look what we did and laugh and go on. Oh, that was crazy. And this is just to entertain themselves. That's all it's to entertain.
I don't know if you listen to Al Snow, but I was listening to his interview today, and he's similar to what I can't believe it's similar to what I've said. But I think he's the one person in the wrestling business that might actually get what wrestling's all about. I think he gets it.
I agree with that.
I think he gets what wrestling's supposed to be and what it's all about. So maybe one of these groups need to put him in charge of this. And there was another problem that I've seen. Tess Blanchard. I guess Tully Blanchard's daughter.
Yeah.
I guess is wrestling for Impact Wrestling at this point, and she wouldn't send in. Have you heard this? She wouldn't send in an interview or something that she was supposed to send in, and she refused to send this in. Do you know anything about this, Jack?
No, and I haven't heard the details. About what's going on with Impact. I honestly, when new stuff comes up on Impact, I rarely click on it. Now, for her, I think she's great.
Yeah.
She is absolutely one of the best female performers in the ring today. And I just don't like what they're doing with her up there. So, you know, if that is a basis, if she ain't happy, I can understand why she's not.
You have to watch that show. I have watched bits and pieces of that show. I would agree with that. I do want to say something that and I didn't see that it happened on Thursday when Mitch Lucas was talking about Continental Championship Wrestling. He said something in it, and what was it, Rodney? He talked about, and then we needed to.
That we were intricate parts of the show. I'm only, I'm only at this point at this show. I am exactly 18 years old. I'm not important to anything except for maybe putting the ring up and making sure making sure the music's ready for the matches and stuff. But I had no decision making or anything to do with the show. I merely was an employee, happy to be there, wanted to be a part of it more than anything in my life. That's where I want it to be.
And I was taking care of merchandise, making some really, really decent money in 1986. So that was
mean that we didn't complain. We did, but that's what we did.
But we did not. Even a father, he did referee, he did book the towns, and he probably did help people with finishes. He probably would help them with the stuff because back then it was a group effort. It just wasn't, well, this is my ideal, and that's the way it's going to be. It didn't work that way back then. So, but we just wanted to make sure people knew that we did not have anything to do with any booking. We had nothing to do with any wrestlers being brought there. That was Ron Fuller, Robert Fuller, Jimmy Golden, Roy Lee Welch, and Bob Armstrong. Those were the guys taking care of that in 1986. Now when we get to 1989, a different situation, different story, and never had the success that Ron Fuller and them had. So, just want to make sure we got that.
Well, I will point out that the business as a whole was going downhill at that time. So
this is true. This is true. I think I've wrote down everything that I got wrote down. I think I got that in, except for one more little piece of business.
Okay.
We said the other day on the Continental Championship Wrestling discussion, I was explaining that years ago we didn't, as a company, call interviews promos. Well, I had people arguing with me saying, yeah, they were promos, though they was not. In the territory days, they were interviews. And I want to show people, even in 1990, when Dad was booking World Championship Wrestling, I wanted to show you what this says. It actually says a 30. Can y'all read any of that, or do I need to scan it?
I can't see that small.
Well, anyway, there's a thing in there that says a 30-second interview and a 30-second event promo. You can see it right there. So they called them interviews. I will scan this in and I will put this as something.
I did see the Nasty Boys on there, and they were fantastic.
Yes, they were. But
they were one of my favorites.
And then here is something that people can see as well. This was what on Wednesday mornings, most of them, or Tuesday mornings. I can't remember which. I think it was Wednesday mornings because they do TV on Wednesday nights. But as you see, that says interview. That it don't say promo. It says interview. It wasn't promos. It was interviews. If you look at here, you'll go to the desk, and you'll see it says Magnum TA interview. It doesn't say promo. It says interview. I don't know when it started called a promo. I'm not saying it's a wrong thing to say. I'm just saying in the territory days, they were called interviews.
Well, in fact, in the interview you had with Ron Fuller, he says they got there at 2:00 in the afternoon at Boutwell Auditorium to do interviews.
All right, here's another one. People can see. As you see, it says live interview. It didn't say promo. It said interview on it. Here's the Southeastern Championship Wrestling. This is what they used to use, both territories.
Mm-hmm.
As you see, it says first interview, second interview, third interview. Didn't say anything about doing any promo. Again, here is another. Now, I'm not saying that ain't what they're called now. I had an argument with a guy saying that they were called promos. No, they were called interviews back then. And here's another one, and you'll see it says, as you see, it says interview, and it wasn't called promos. I just want to say, tell the territory days they were called interviews. I don't know when they changed to being promos, but they were interviews back in the territory days. Even up to 1989, we didn't call them promos, we called them interviews. And I just wanted to show this to show the guy that they were called interviews back then, not promos. There was a promo, but it was Georgia Championship Wrestling comes to the Atlanta Omni, and that was the promo. That was a 30-second promo or an hour promo. Just wanted to show the guy that I wasn't just being a butthole.
It is right that you just didn't fall off the turnip wagon, that you actually knew what you were talking about.
Well, I didn't want to do that. I just wanted to show them that what I was telling them was true. Sure. They wasn't called promos back then. It's not a huge deal, but I mean,
a lot of the lingo changed. Probably in the 90s. I know I saw a lot of stuff, and I got into a little debate here about a year ago with a guy trying to explain to him the difference between a blade and a gig and other stuff like that. And he kept saying, no, that's what it is. I said, that's what it is now. But the way we referred to stuff back then was totally different. And he just, he's like 22 years old and wanted to argue, and that didn't end well for him. But
well, I argued with this guy. We went back and forth about 15 minutes, and I didn't have this stuff readily available when we were arguing. But I just wanted to, and I told him to watch the show tonight, that I was showing stuff that it did show back in the territory days. And I'm not saying what they're called today. I don't know what they're called today.
Yeah. He's right. He's right about today's lingo. It just changed.
But we're talking about territory days, and that's what I was trying to explain to them. Territory days. I don't know what they do today in pro wrestling. I really don't. That's the reason.
That's the point. For me, that ain't pro wrestling. That's
just true.
I'm sorry. When you're throwing urine in people's faces, you're desperate to find ratings. You're desperate to get attention.
You're coming
to that point.
Throwing urine on people is going to get you ratings.
No, it entertains themselves for sure.
It's the cheap pop thing,
Yeah, that's the Raging Cajun said, "What's going on, guys? The old Raging Cajun." Let's see. Paul Hatchett, hello from Calhoun, Georgia. Calhoun, Georgia, great wrestling town in Calhoun. We brought Dusty Rhodes to Calhoun, Georgia one time. David Lawson,
David Lagana.
Lagana resigned the NWA. They ceased operations due to allegations. I think there's, from what I said, because it's the Smashing Pumpkin guys who owns that, right?
Yeah.
Whatever his name is.
It left me. David ran the day-to-day, everything up there. And they didn't cease operations for that. They have ceased operations because of the COVID-19, and they just hadn't started back up yet. But he never responded to his allegations. It was just they hit one day, the next day they announced his resignation.
Paul Hatchett, Will said, Jack, wrestlers are family, respect each other. And David Lawson also said, well said, Jack. We're a little behind because we got into little rants and raves about other stuff. We told everybody there could be a lights out match tonight. So just a lot of stuff happened tonight. Lights out match, no disqualification, which I've had years ago that have lights out matches and then have a disqualification.
That was true. I was going to think about that. We did.
How that happened. I don't know how that happened.
I remember going specifically to the Omni for a lights out match because I'd never heard of it before, and I was shocked that the lights actually stayed on. I didn't know what to expect.
You were thinking those lights going to come in. Somebody's when the lights come back on, somebody's going to be down and out.
That's honestly what I was thinking.
Jonathan Beek, hey guys, and the KLT heavyweight champion in the house.
Johnny Chaos defending his belt this week in a cage. We'll see if he's still the champ when it's over.
All right, that's this Saturday night. You can go to their website to find out more information about it. Make sure you're a part of that this Saturday night. Jay Smith, check it in from Kansas City. Hey guys, Kansas City.
Hey buddy.
Beautiful buildings down in that area that have wrestling. I thought they were great when we were in that Kansas City territory. What's Central States
All-Star Wrestling? Yeah, man,
that was some good stuff. But I tell you,
we may need to go there and run shows till Alabama decides to change their dang tune. Let me have some coffee.
Some of those towns, every city hall had an auditorium with it. It seemed like.
Ronnie, tell that story when we were there about Todd Champion and Gary Cortinelli, the Italian stallion. Tell that story while I'm looking over some stuff.
We come out of, I think it was Topeka, and it had snowed as normal. And so I decided I was going to take a snowball, and then I was going to hit Tiny Stallion in the back of the head, and we was going to run into it in the car because we figured all the fans would jump on it. So I took and I threw, but I missed, and it went right in his car. Well, instead of them turning on us, everybody in that parking lot picked up snowballs. And I mean, they were pounding the Italian Stallion and talking. They were trying to roll up the windows, and they were just pounding. We left. We come around the city square there, and they were still having a snowball fight. Caused a riot.
Right there in Topeka,
and we got out of town.
You know, the only town that ever drew while we were there was St. Joe, Missouri. That was the only town that ever drew the whole time we was there. It was very hard to. That was a very hard situation. We'll have to talk about that one day, of how hard that was to get people to understand. We actually, Dad wanted to go get a little wrestling ring and get a bunch of little wrestlers so he could go over the finishes with each one of the guys. That's how bad that situation was.
Batman action figures and show.
Paul Hatchett, the KLT referee in the house. Hey, he's the blind guy then, right?
Yeah.
He wears glasses.
Well, he does wear glasses. I say that right there.
Maybe his prescription ran out.
More than one time he said, "Hey, Jack, where's the ring?" So.
Let's see. Norman Chambers. Norman, he posts a lot on our page, and we like to thank you so much for posting to be a part. He's one of our first people who became a part of Pro Wrestling Inside Out. When we first started, he would do a lot of it, and we thank you so much, Norman. We
appreciate you, Norman.
Yeah, and you are. I love to hear and read your post. Let's see. Hang in there, pal. Theodore McIrvin. I don't know who he was talking about there. All right, here's Dennis Mitchell. He has a very long. So let's see what he has to say. Rodney has disappeared now. I have a question. Whatever happened to Lady Maxine? Lady Maxine is still around. She is a friend of mine on Facebook. So she is still around. I don't know where she's living now, but. Do you know, Jack?
Really, last I heard was in Florida, but that's been years ago.
I will check for you, Dennis. But she is a friend on Facebook, and I'm going to try to get her to come on here and talk about her time in wrestling and especially the time she did because she got over big time in Florida. She got over big time in Continental. She went to the UWF, and I think maybe did she manage the sheep herders there, or was it against the sheep herders? Jack Victory and
she was with Jack Victory and
John Tatum.
John Tatum.
You know, so she had a great career. So, but she is still around. I think Florida maybe, but I will check on you and make sure. And guys, do you remember the #1 wrestling fans in Montgomery, Gladys Spider Haynes? Any good stories about her? She was something else. Do you remember her, Rodney?
I probably remember her face. I'm terrible with names, though, but I probably remember her name. I remember her face.
And who was the #1 fan back in the day? I guess in Columbus, Georgia, Augusta, Georgia, and Mobile, Alabama, and Dothan, Alabama. I went to see a match in 1986 with Adrian Street beat Norvell Austin to lose a Lee Town match in Montgomery. After the match, a friend tried to attack Adrian Street. Yes, that happened a lot in Continental Championship Wrestling. There's a lot of questions there. I don't know that we could ever point out a fan.
I'll point out the one fan in Columbus, Georgia. That was Miss Lee and Carter.
Yes.
President Jimmy Carter's mom.
We did have some in Georgia that would travel from place to place. There was a lady.
Rosie was one of them.
Yeah, her name's Gloria. She actually worked in the Omni box office, I believe, CNN Center box office there. And there was a lady that, and I'm terrible with names. I'm sorry. Lady owned a clothes shop in Marietta, and she would travel all over. In fact, I still got some of her shirts that she gave us when we were kids. And she would go to Columbus and she would do almost the whole week in some cases, and then be back to the store the next day. We had awesome fans.
Yeah, and we always respected the fans. That's the reason we didn't use lingo against them, because we were a fan. We were a fan of professional wrestling.
I'm still a fan.
Dad was a fan of professional wrestling. The Fargos was his. I mean, when growing up, the Fargos was it to him. I mean, that was the guys. I mean, when you go and make sure against your mother and father's wishes, and you go get something and peroxide and make your hair blonde when you've been told not to, and you and your friend both do that, and you become the Fargos at school and double pile drive a kid on the ground. You're a wrestling fan, okay?
I can't believe that happened. Except I did almost the same thing. Body slammed a kid in 6th grade in the boys' bathroom. that was a pain. It hurt me in the end more than it did him.
Yeah, and I will be honest, I have pictures somewhere. I have a picture of me, and I have to show what day. I've got the cowboy hat of Stan Hansen, okay? I've got the cowboy hat on, and I've got we for some reason we had the Georgia Heavyweight Championship, and me and Rodney tried to clean this Georgia Heavyweight. Our problem was to clean this thing up. So we figured that we was using a bunch of stuff, and we figured if you took toothpaste, it would clean it up really well. The only problem was it turned it completely green.
I had to send it off.
Had to send it off and have it cleaned after that. So don't use, if you have a belt out there, don't use toothpaste to clean it.
And it happened overnight. We had it looking just pristine, ready. And then I took it out of the towel, green. It was off.
I don't think it could be used for television the next morning. So don't do that. It does not clean it up. It will clean it up for the moment, but it will look bad after that. So don't. Kenneth Smith said, "Hey guys, I am here as usual. What's up, Jack?"
Hey, Ken.
Terry Lestergraf, good evening. And Terry, we're gonna have to get you on here and let you tell some stories here soon. I know you have some stories you want to. We have to be very careful. And we've talked about this of who we put on the show, because you never know what somebody's going to say. So, and we've got so many people. We've had over 400 people want to be a part of our podcast. They want to be on here and be a part of it. And we have to be very careful, because now we're going to if we let one person on, then the next person is going to say they want to get on, and before you know it, we've got a big fight going on our hands of people who want to be on here. So we are going to figure out, me and Jack's talked about it. We're going to try to figure out a way how we can do that. We will let everybody know by August sometime and let you know how we can accommodate that. Jay Smith said, "I'm with you, Brent. The writing today is awful. It has its moments. Now the wrestlers themselves, I don't want to discredit the wrestlers. Mm-mm. They work very, very hard.
Amazing performers now. They do stuff that we could never have done 30 years ago. Love these guys. Yeah, they're men and women.
They just need good writing. They need good storylines. They need deep storylines, and maybe get away from comedy. Maybe make it a drama for a while. Make wrestling the drama, because I don't think wrestling was meant to be a comedy. And make it a drama for a while. Let these guys really show what they can do. And whatever you do, get the Iconics off television. I don't care what you do. Get those. And it's not their fault.
No, it's not their fault.
Ladies, I know you're just doing what you're told, but that thing where you stop and say, "I'm the Iconics," that's just horrible. It's embarrassing. I have to turn it off. It embarrasses me. I have secondhand embarrassment when they're doing that. Now I know they have to be really feeling bad about that. But
it comes down to it. If your company doesn't take their own product seriously, nobody else is going to either. And that's just the bottom line. They look at wrestling or look at the business this way. And this is the way it comes out. This is what they want.
if anybody's ever watched or watched a video, it's called the Hannibal TV. Have you ever watched any of his interviews, his interviews he does with wrestlers? He was doing an interview the other day, and he said that he went to put out a poster. He was putting out posters for a show that he had done way before all the problems that's happened in the world. And he said, the guy asked him, he says, why did you promote that crap for? And now this is a guy that he's putting out posters for. And, that's kind of sad that, we didn't used to have that problem. We put a poster up, hey, wrestling's coming to town. You didn't have this stuff with people. You're promoting that crap again. And that's the clean version of what he said, and that's sad today that we have people that say that when you're putting out posters. And this is in Canada, I believe. So, it's that's kind of sad that we're in that, that people say that about wrestling now. Mike Schaefer watching in Bama. Hey, Mike. David Lawson, thank goodness for YouTube. Jarrett Parsons and Roku can't watch new wrestling. Maybe one of these days somebody's going to come along and get professional wrestling. Maybe that's going to happen. Now, if WWE and A&W, they're not going to give you professional wrestling, even though A&W did tell everyone that they were going to give professional wrestling. So
they fell back to what was safe for them.
I think they turned heel on us.
Yeah, they fell back to what they knew. When it came right down to it, they didn't know it. They talked about it, but they didn't know how to do it.
Well, unfortunately,
Cody, really, was he in a territory system? No. His dad was, and his dad was brilliant. He knew wrestling inside and out. He knew how to get himself over. Does Cody have the same? I'm going to say no. No, he does not.
You would think Dustin would have a little bit more of a thought, but I'd say he's just working there.
He is. I talked to him last year at a convention, and he told me he's there, he's working, he's doing whatever they ask of him, but he don't put his 2 cents in unless somebody asks him. He's just trying to support them.
He's just taking that money that they give you, and they give you good money. So, people talk about Jim Ross, but I think Jim Ross is making like $1 million a year there.
That's what I heard.
So I don't blame them. I don't care if they said it was horrible. I said, I don't know.
No. Let me.
I can compromise.
We would be backstage as producers today for half of what Jim Ross makes. All 3 of us for that.
That's right.
And agree with everything.
Anybody else, we're doing the best we can.
You're going to throw urine on the guy. Jeez, you want me to make the urine for you? I'll do it. I don't care. It would not bother us.
Here, let me fill up again. Oh.
I might have to pull Billy Gunn to the side and cry on his shoulder every now and then, but.
Dennis Mitchell, I'm watching. I think we answered the question for him. Tim Truitt, how much more can a billionaire do? I think his time is about done.
He's talking about Vince.
You talking about Vince?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I think he will be around. Don't you think WWE will be around?
WWE will be around, and I think Vince is still going to be around a while. I saw an article the other day where they were talking about him losing so much money. He was worth $2.9 billion the first of the year. To now he's worth $1.9 billion. So he's lost $1 billion this year. But that's with the football and, everything combined, the virus hitting. And I'm thinking, they're saying, oh, that's terrible. Look how he's out of touch. And I'm thinking he's worth $1.9 billion. At some point, he's made some real good money decisions.
Yeah, of course, yes.
Yeah, I think he would be much better spending that money instead of with the XFL and doing all these. He would have took that money and developed territories and started the way that, the only way that he developed his company the way it was developed, because he went into each territory, he went into Alabama, he went into, and it took months and years to develop, and he developed such a local presence that by the time he was a national company on a national level, he had all these places that he had a syndicated TV show on, and that's what made him successful.
of course, now let me point out, I don't have any insider lingo here. I just pick up stuff that I read. But, my understanding was that they were working on opening up different branches of NXT worldwide. I know that they were working on Japan, and I think they were close to sealing that when all this hit. I have heard the same thing about Canada. I've heard, India. And of course, they've already got Europe with NXT UK. So, I really believe that's what he's trying to do, is develop his own territories again, which is smart business. Now, I don't know if that's as much him as it is Triple H, because I've seen interviews of Triple H talking about the importance of the territory system and how, according to him, Vince has admitted that putting the territories out of business was probably a bad idea in the long run, because where's he going to get his talent from? Until Triple H come up with the idea of, NXT, the developmental territories, and making them a viable product on their own.
I think that the territories develop one city at a time. I think if he could build those back up, he'd get the 10 million people or more watching his main Raw, and I think it's going to take that. It's going to take that grassroots approach to get back to where he was at.
How much better would Raw be if they highlighted those different individual territories per se, say the first hour of every episode? Yeah. It gets them national attention. If they were on there once a month, each one, rotate around, it gets them nationwide, worldwide. Let me take that back, worldwide attention. I don't know. I'm just thinking, which apparently some people don't do. But
Mike Shaver said no one thinks the Dark Order is interesting. Well, I didn't say they were interesting, Mike. I just thought it was kind of weird to have ninjas and Dark Order. I just thought that was
honestly,
zombies are coming. Zombies are coming.
I'm not against them. It just seems like there's so many groups there that I can't keep up with them. Now, I'm not a dedicated watcher. Like I say, I watch most of it and fast forward, unless Dustin's wrestling or Billy Gunn's wrestling or guys like that I enjoy watching. But yeah, I just get confused with all that stuff.
I suggest you three take over the writing for the NWA. I don't think we would last 3 weeks. 3 weeks we would last.
Now, Rodney hit on that they're doing stuff for the boys in the back, and the NWA. Now, I like them. I like all those guys there. I met Billy Corgan, nice guy, but I think that I get the feeling like they're poking fun at what we used to do. Now, that may not be the intent, but that's the feeling I got. And they have serious moments on there that are really good, and then they lose me with the comedy stuff on there. And I know a lot of people over there, and I think they all do a fantastic job. It's not the talents on camera that I have an issue with. But, if people buy it, if they want to watch it, then, they're doing better than I am. So nobody's watching me much. Yet.
You know what I don't get? They had a guy there that could have been the man to book their territory and do a good job for him. That was Ricky Morton. He understands what it takes to sell. He understands the comeback. He understands that you need long-term booking. He understands all that. So I don't understand. They had the guy there standing in front of him.
Let's not forget that Dutch Mantel is sitting at home.
Yeah.
You've got guys who really are some of the best bookers in the industry that they're not being utilized. And that's a shame to me.
Oh, Joe Baloo said, preach it, Rodney. I see so many indie shows doing their show for the guys in the back.
I'll tell you, I've been enjoying a lot of stuff from Mid-Atlantic, 1970s, early 70s, and I'm just amazed about the response of the people. You watch the matches and how they were putting them together. It was very formulaic. I'll admit that, but everybody sold. Everybody sold everything. You throw a punch in the stomach, they sold it. You slammed them, they sold it. You slam somebody today, and they beat you up. You're up to that looking you in the face.
Yeah.
They don't sell it. I mean, for me, they don't sell anything. And so it's just bang, bang, bang. But they're selling everything. And I mean, Flair and Flair and the Superstar and Iron Sheik are just vicious. I mean, relentless in their attack. And the people are just, oh, please do something. Please, Steamboat, please do something. And finally, they just hit them with one punch, and the people just explode. One in the stomach, and they just explode. But they're selling it. They're selling everything.
Well, I had that conversation with a young man the other night. He was new coming in, wanting to try out. I used him, and but I told him, I said, you're obviously trained to do all the high spots. And I said, I have nothing against high spots. What I want to teach you is how to take those 6 high spots that you want to do within the span of a minute or two, and break those up over a 10-minute match. I said, the spots are fine. Let's just tell a story with them. Let people register, sell that stuff. And he kind of had that glass-eyed look,
Yeah.
But he did what I asked him to. So,
well, hallelujah.
I was watching a couple of matches, and I just it was Saturday night, real late, and I was watching they'll get down and they'll do these little fast little hits on the back, and I'm thinking, what are you doing? Why are you doing this? If you're going to hit someone, don't halfway do it. Get up and really hit the person, but these little, I don't know what these little shots are, but, I don't know.
Because they're teaching, people are working towards the front row. They're not working towards the back of the building. So these small little things, sure, that looks good for TV, possibly, and for the people sitting on the front row. But you're supposed to be,
I don't know.
Seeing it from the back row.
That punch looked really bad, so I don't know.
Did it? Okay, well then, all right.
It was really bad. And this is the thing. It's not that you're trying to tell somebody. I don't know this. Years ago, somebody would tell you, "Hey, listen. What you just did," and I'm not saying everything. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying everything. Go back and watch the Mid-South Wrestling 1983. There was a lot of mess ups. There was a lot of bad stuff. I mean, I love Jim Duggan to death, but woo, he was not that good. All right, some of the stuff he did looked bad. I mean, bad. Steve Williams, some of the stuff he did looked bad, but it didn't really matter because they knew how to tell a story. They knew that people could overlook. Steve Austin was so over, they could overlook that really the kicks that he did in the corner wasn't that great. But they overlooked it because he was so over. So it didn't matter that he did it. But nowadays, if you're not over and you do horrible looking stuff, they're going to really get you today. And I think that's what's happening on a daily basis in wrestling today. The guys are not over, so everything they do, the people are they're just in there pounding them. That's not any good. So I told you there was going to be a lights out match tonight. I just knew it. Me and Jack knew it when we started the show today. There was going to be a lights out match and non-sanctioned by the National Wrestling Alliance. We're not going to be sanctioned by the WWE, okay? So it has to be the National Wrestling Alliance.
I don't think they even sanction themselves. But
oh, okay. Well, okay, the old National Wrestling, not the new National Wrestling Alliance. Maybe I should go there when there was actually a National Wrestling Alliance, not just the words that said that. Back in the day, the National Wrestling Alliance was actually an organization with about 32 wrestling companies. And they were part of the National Wrestling Alliance that paid fees to be part of the National Wrestling Alliance. And so back then when it meant something, non-sanctioned by the National Wrestling Alliance. So I think we need to, let's see what other people, because we're getting into rants tonight. Mark Harrell say, hey, great guys, I'm sorry. I guess I'm an old school stuff. Today he's not interested in today's product. And I understand that. We all understand that. Susan Renee, hello.
Hey, Susan.
She said, Susan Renee, GCW comes to the Memorial Gym in beautiful downtown Rome. Hey, there's the promo right there.
There
you go.
They used to make me go running to find my mom and beg every time. That's right.
There you go.
Wait a minute. Dick Slater will take on Mr. Wrestling number 2. I loved them spots of Freddie Miller. Be there. That was some of the greatest spots.
I still put that on everything when I'm advertising cards. I put "be there" at the end.
Jay Smith, Billy Corrigan. You just said that.
Yeah.
You just said his name. So Jordan wanted to say it was good to see you in Rome, Jack.
Good to see you too, Jordan.
Jay Smith said, "Bring it, guys." Bob Blackburn said, "Todd Champion, quite a piece of work." There's a story about Todd Champion. I don't know.
We'll save that for the YouTube channel.
Yeah, we'll have to save that for some other. But because there's a funny story about Todd Champion and while he was working in Kansas City, we'll have to tell that story down the line, but we will not tell it right here. Anita Lynn Snow, how you doing, Lynn? Good to see you. Alf is still sitting in Rodney's house over there. So
On the wall.
Tim Truitt, Brent Rodney are coming to the Union Rome. I don't know that I'm going to be able to make it there to Rome, Georgia this Saturday. I am back in the flea market business, and the flea market business is up and running again, which we didn't know that was going to be at the time that we were going to be there. Wrestling with Wrestling. Email me at WrestlingNewsTalk@1970. We will get in touch with you. We'll do something together with you and try to do a show together one day. Let's see. Dennis Cook. Good evening from Lincoln, Nebraska. Since the passing of Wrestling 2 at the age of 85, who would be the oldest living wrestler at this time? I'm guessing Lynn Rossi at 89.
I think that's probably right. I can't think of anyone else that's older than Lynn, who was my childhood hero, by the way.
Bob Blackburn, hardest I was ever hit was an old lady with a cane in the front row.
Don't get close to her; she won't hit you.
Bob, we need to bring you on.
Yes, we do.
We need to bring you on one Monday. So if you're available to come and do that, hopefully you can get on with us the way we get on. If not, we can work out something to get you on the telephone. But if you can come on this way, it works better.
Bob will smoke cigars with me.
But we do need to bring you on a Monday, let you tell some of the stories about your time in professional wrestling. We need to get that done in the next few weeks at least. Next Monday, we're already set. By the way, tomorrow night, Jack Lord talks to Evan. What's his last name? Ginsburg. He will talk to him about 350 days and maybe even talk to him a little bit. He may talk to him a little bit about the wrestler because I think he had something to do with that as well.
Yeah.
That's tomorrow night, 7:30. It'll be an interesting. Jack's going to handle that interview. I'm going to welcome the people. Then I'm going to step out and he'll do the interview with Evan tomorrow night. I dislike wrestling. I just came to hang out with cool guys. Now, Lynn, I believe you're saying you disliked wrestling today. Because years ago we all loved wrestling.
I don't know if anybody could hang out with us long if they didn't like at least the old school wrestling.
That's right. Jim McCormick seems to be a lot of KLT guys in here tonight. Great show.
Yeah, their jobs are dependent on it.
You can get Charlotte Fargo on your show. I did see that the other day. I saw her on there. We had talked back and forth, and we do need to get her on to talk about it.
Hey, yeah, Charlotte's a wonderful person, man. I think the world of her, and she's got tons of stories to tell about her dad. Let's
see here. Lynn, did you ever lose your hair in the ring?
No, I lost my step a few times, but not my hair.
Tim Truitt, yeah, and it never grew back.
It can grow back.
Yeah, he said, "Whoa!"
I just have such a great deal at the Dollar Shave Club. I don't want to lose it.
Larry Brock, hello guys. Been a while. Great show tonight.
Hey, Larry.
Thanks so much, Larry. Larry, this was the heel night again. Sometimes we go to the ladies' night, but tonight was the heel night.
Larry should have been on then. He's the biggest hill I know.
I know he would have worked in great for our hill night tonight. Now next week we will go back to the baby face, because if you get too much heat too many weeks in a row, you will kill your territory off. So you cannot continuously get the heat. Just let any promoter know that. Do not continuously get heat, because you will kill your territory off.
9 times out of 10 we're very positive, but every now and then you got to address some stuff that ain't real nice.
That's right. He said, I heard Vince was a hard person to work for. I don't know. Never worked for Vince McMahon. I don't.
I've heard both. Usually, I mean, if you do your job and you make him money, I think he's probably your best friend.
Yeah, I would think so. David Law said, saw some videos of Southern All-Star Wrestling from Knoxville on YouTube. It aired on WBR Channel 10, 1986. Did it compete against Continental at the time? I don't remember it. Rodney, you said you saw it.
I saw that show. I saw what he saw on YouTube the other night. But as far, I believe that was finished by the time Continental went to there, because I don't think they arrived till about March or
it was March
April of next year. So I don't think they were there. In fact, I'm not sure how many shows they did.
Who did it? Does anybody know who did that show? If anybody's watching, do you know, Jack? Because I know I've seen Rick Connors on the show. Dirty White Boy was on the show. Tony Anthony.
Dale Mann was on there.
Was Easy Slappywitz manager?
Easy Slappywitz was on there. Mm-hmm.
It wasn't Easy Slappywitz did the show, was it?
He may have been something behind the scenes there, but I don't think he was the promoter.
Ooh, it was some pretty bad stuff. I have to admit, it wasn't real good stuff. So
I fast forward through a lot of that.
I watched it, and the tag guys, the guys within the mask, go and watch it. Go look.
Production was great. Bill Kincaid was one of the best directors that there was for wrestling. I mean, he was an innovator in a lot of stuff.
I remember seeing that because you told me about it, Rodney, and I did go watch it. It was no Continental Championship wrestling.
Well, that goes to what I say, that, not everything back in the day was good.
No.
We had our stuff that we'd rather not remember too.
I noticed Ron Sexton was on that show too. He was actually doing a commentary at one point on there, and I believe he was a referee before for Ron when he was up there, when Southeastern was up there.
Well, Les Thatcher was on the show. I just wonder if he had something to do with it. Maybe Les can tell us at some point who promoted.
No, we're working on getting Les on here next month?
Yeah,
or August, July, end of July.
End of July, I think so. So maybe we can ask him when we get Les on. Larry Brock said, "Great statement, Jack."
Thank you, Larry.
Quentin Ward, I have seen referees get a pile driver and stand right back up and work the rest of the night. Now, what person is getting Quentin? Now, what place are you going to that the referees are getting pile drived? Jack needs to go there and take care of the booking, because I wouldn't last 3 minutes there.
Remember the old rule: if they don't sell, make them sell.
That's
true.
David Lawson said the promotion had Les Thatcher commentating. Dirty White Boy was there. Was it Dirty White Boy Continental then? No, he did not come into till the end of 1986. I think he was there by July 1986, but he didn't come in until then. Let's see. Robert Walker on here. Mr. Wrestling 2's son. How you doing, Robert? Well, hi, gentlemen. Nice to see you again. Dad's funeral arrangements are set for August 6th at 10 a.m. at the, how would you say that word, Jack?
Milana
Mortuary. I will keep you posted as time gets closer. We will also be doing a video memorial and posting that so everyone can be present virtually. Thank you so much.
That's awesome.
And we will let everyone know we'll let everybody know that's on Pro Wrestling Inside and Out about that. Thank you so much, Robert. Dennis Mitchell. Hey, guys, I have a question. How did Rick Stewart get to be an announcer on Southeastern and Central States Wrestling? What was his background and where was he from? I don't really know how he got into pro wrestling. Does anybody know? I would say he had the voice. I'd say he was doing radio somewhere.
Probably. And
probably in Central States, I would gather. I'd say in the Central States area, probably started doing the ring announcing, and then, like anything, I say we're paying knowing Bob Geiger, we're paying our announcer right now we're paying him $300. We can pay Rick Stewart $150. Let's see if he'll do just knowing Bob Geigel, I'd say that probably what happened. But you know, I'll find out, see if I can find any information on Rick Stewart. But he was very good. Rick Stewart was a great announcer. There's no doubt. Andre Corbell left a bunch of comments on your YouTube channel live chat. Okay, Andre, we'll go see it, and if it's bad comments, we'll delete them. So that's we'll leave them on there even if they're bad comments. We've been in the wrestling business a long time. A little hurtful things don't hurt us. So, Doug Masters, this is a great show. Thank you so much. And I think Doug, you have a podcast as well. Just let us know what that is, and we'll let people know about your podcast. Andre said, any thoughts on Ann Gunkel? You know, I never met Ann Gunkel. Did you meet Ann Gunkel, Jack?
No, that was before my time, but she's a beautiful lady, you know, and I think she had potential to really do something there. I don't really know how all that ended, but you know, the quality wasn't that bad though.
No, she had it. You know, she did it. She came back in 1986, and she did talk to us in 1985 about doing stuff with her. But you know, at the time, I think Dad might have been in Louisiana at the time. You know, I never met her, so I can't really tell any thoughts on Ann Gunkel because I don't. Rodney, did you ever meet her?
No, we never get a chance to meet her. She came in and worked with Ole for a while. That's the only time I remember her. I think they was like a partner there for a little while before Crockett came in.
Chad said, now Chad, I think I did an interview on last week about being there, and he said he couldn't make it because of Father's Day, which we understand. He said he was going to be there Saturday night in Rome, so he's going to hold you to that. Now,
coming this Saturday. All right, Chad, I look forward to it. Come help me celebrate. Saturday's my 45th anniversary of being in professional wrestling.
So come and have a celebrate. Bring them a cigar so you can smoke later on in the night. That's it.
2, just in case the first one's bad.
Any news on Tracy Smothers? Jack, any news on Tracy?
Yes, I talked to Tracy. I think he's through with the chemo. You know, I don't know that he's got final results back from anything yet, but he's doing a little bit better. He's still got a long way to go because he went through an awful lot with all those treatments and everything. So y'all remember him. Bullet. We have a wrestling reunion for wrestlers only, unfortunately, but for you fans. And I talked to Brian Road Dogg a few weeks ago, and he's going to try to bring Bob if Bob's able to travel. And of course, we hope that he is, but you know, I know that his health is not that good.
Let's see. David Lawson said Rick Stewart also worked for Blackwell's promotion, met him at Truett High School in Cleveland, Tennessee. Rick Stewart was a nice guy. He really was, and had that great voice for pro wrestling, ain't no doubt. Tim Truett, I still think Charlie Platt was the best announcer for Continental Championship Wrestling.
Amen.
Yeah, I think so. Gordon was good, but I don't think Gordon fit that. Me and Rodney talked about this the other day. I think Gordon might have been just phoning it in at the time. What do you know?
All the times I was there, I never talked to Gordon. He came in and went right to the set, and as soon as the show was over with, he was gone.
Luckily, I was not in charge because Mr. Soley and Mr. Miller both would have been brought back and said, if you can't do any better than that, I'll find somebody who did.
Yeah,
it was just terrible.
I understand the reasoning for bringing him in for the notoriety, but Charlie, man, I just loved hearing Charlie. He's so good.
Doug Masters' show is Pretty Boy Doug Masters Turnbuckle Tales every Thursday night, 7 p.m. Central Time. Whatever.
That's the website address.
That's the website, and I'll just put it on the description because I don't think anybody will be able to write that down in that much of a hurry. I will put it in the description and go listen to the show. I think Tom Pritchard was on not long ago, so. He's having a reunion show too, July 5th, 3 p.m. Central Time, Sherman, Texas, Elks Lodge.
Awesome.
All right. We're a little behind it. We did a lot of healing tonight. but we got to talk about Georgia Championship Wrestling 1977 before we leave tonight, because I did forget one week after we was talking about the Alabama Athletic Commission, and we won't start on that tonight.
Yeah, my bad.
But we're gonna let's talk about this. September 30th, 1977, Atlanta, Georgia, Atlanta Municipal Auditorium. Here's the card: Richard Blood and Stephen Littlebear versus Randy Savage and Bill White. Charlie Cook against Sergeant Jacques Goulet. Tommy Rich and Tony Atlas against Pac Song and the Executioner. World Tag Team Title match: Ole and Gene Anderson against Dick Slater and Dusty Rhodes. And I remember Dick Slater had just turned a few weeks ago. They did the Omni show. This is a return match. Here is the next one, October 7th, 1977. The very next week, the Atlanta Municipal Auditorium. Jacques Goulet against Richard Blood. Dino Bravo against Charlie Cook. Tony Atlas against the Executioner, and that ended in a no contest. Pac Song against Tommy Rich. Dick Slater against Terry Funk. Mr. Wrestling #2 against Toro Tanaka. I don't think Toro Tanaka was wrestling for the company at the time, was he, Rodney?
I'm sorry, excuse me, I missed that.
Toro, was you not listening to me?
Well, he was not. I'm trying to figure out who Matt Riviera is.
Oh, Matt Riviera, Jack.
I'll explain that to you in a second.
Okay.
Mr. Wrestling 2 and Toro Tanaka. Was Toro Tanaka, though, was he wrestling?
Yeah, he was there. Yeah, he was there.
All right,
yeah,
because Toro Tanaka hurt Mr. Wrestling 2 show
the year before.
The year before. Now, prior to this, I guess the very next week, Pac Song hurt. Or did he?
The next year. It's in 77 that Pac Song hits him with the stool.
1977. So I'm gathering Wrestling 2 came back and went against Toro Tanaka.
First. He did it first because that was the first time that they had done the hurt. The 76, he hurt him at the sports arena, I think.
Well, yeah,
and then he comes back, and of course the first guy, Tanaka was the first guy that hurt him his neck before.
So he goes against him first before he goes to Pac Song. Okay. Right. I see that now. I just wondered. I didn't think Toro Tanaka was actually working in the territory at the time in 1977. So I guess they just brought him back just for this one. And then the main event was Dusty Rhodes against Ole Anderson. All right, now here's the Coliseum card, and here's the Omni card right here. Friday, October 14th, revenge match of the century: Mr. Wrestling 2 versus Pac Song. NWA World Tag Team title: Dusty Rhodes and Dick Slater against Ole and Gene Anderson. And if the Andersons don't win the title, they must leave Georgia for good. This thing says for good. They wasn't playing. These are going to be gone for good. Ox Baker versus Tony Atlas, 6-man tag match. Dick Murdoch, Sergeant Jacques Goulet, the Executioner against Charlie Cook, Richard Blood, and Dino Bravo. Bob Armstrong against Dr. Death. Do you remember, Rodney, who Dr. Death would have been?
I do not remember Dr. Death.
Jim Dalton against Tommy Rich. Stan Hansen, which I believe is the first time Stan Hansen actually comes into the territory.
Yep.
Preston Nichols and David Von Erich against Randy Savage.
Wow. That's not the night, though. No, it's at the City Auditorium that Stan Hansen jumps in the ring and beats both Dusty and Dick Slater up at the same time, didn't he? That's where he tells everybody that he strapped the American Nightmare with the lariat.
I believe you are right. I believe you're right. Here is a picture of Dusty Rhodes and Gene Anderson. That looks like that could be Rome, Georgia. I'm not for sure, but
yeah.
It's a small building, so I think it was. And here's a picture with Abdullah the Butcher, Rock Hunter, Gordon Soley, and Pac Song, probably around this same time period.
Yeah, there was I just saw a video someone had posted with Wrestling 2, and he's making his comeback, and he was working out. He had weights, and he was working out with a bench press. And I saw somebody had made a comment. Well, it's only 115 pounds. Well, if you'll notice, still from the neck surgery, because actually 2 had a neck surgery at that time, he was still weak in that one arm when he was lifting. 115 pounds is quite impressive, if you ask me, after an incident and an operation like that.
All right, Jack. Now explain this. What's the guy's name again?
Oh, Matt Riviera. Matt Riviera, I think he's in Arkansas. Heck of a wrestler, good looking guy, does a money type gimmick because he actually has money. He had a show out of that area a few years ago I mean, production values, the talent. I was really disappointed when he shut down, and I'm not really sure what the reasoning was. But man, I loved his show. It was really good, just old school wrestling. I thought he was really on to something. But I talked to Matt several times, and just a really nice guy. So and a good looking guy. So take that for what it is, there, Rodney.
There we go.
All right. We're gonna ask. We're gonna let Chad. Chad ask. I never heard people talk about Ox Baker much. How was he back in the day? I think he might have been. He might have been really, really good, but at the time, I think he was going up in age by the time we had saw him. But man, could he get some heat even back then? He could do an interview better than anybody. That interview was spectacular, and just the look he had.
Ox was one of those guys who knew how to play to his strengths. He was not the greatest wrestler in the world, but you believed what he did.
Yes. That is no doubt. All right. Are we missing anything? Do we need to talk about the Alabama Athletic Commission before we leave today, Jack?
I don't really have any new updates. Apparently, I'm the only promoter type person in the state that hasn't been blocked from their Facebook page. But other than that, I wish I was joking, but it's true.
Rodney, you have anything you want to add for the show before we leave?
Always a pleasure, and we'd like to say thank you to each and every one of you that participate in the show. Without you, it's nothing really. And also remind everybody that on Fridays we post the Mid-South Wrestling, and we're still looking at 1984. So we post those on Friday.
Well, folks, if you're watching on Facebook, like and share. And if you're watching on YouTube, give us a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel because you never know when we're going to upload something new. And make sure you hit that notification bell because you never know when we're going to put something new that we're not putting on Facebook. Jack, thank you so much. Rodney, thank you so much. And hopefully next week on the next episode, we go back to being baby faces on the next episode.
Speak for yourself.
And Rodney might say the same thing, but I'll go back a big face next week right here on.
I will be what is ever necessary.
There you go.
A tweener.
We'll see you on the next episode of the Wrestling Conversation.